So hi everyone who's joined. I'm Brooke White. I'm one of the district captains here in the 16th Congressional District in New York, working with Sister District Project. And we're really happy to have Chris Hurst joining us tonight from Southwest Virginia. We're really looking forward to getting started with working on your campaign, Chris. Just a couple of pieces of logistics before we start. There's a chat window, so please say hi, tell us your name and where you're from, what town you're in. And then you can also post your questions and comments, words of encouragement there. We'll have the video posted later. So if you have to step away or you want to share it with friends, that'll be available. And then Thursday night, we'll be having a volunteer planning call. So that'll be at 8 p.m. And all the information about that will be posted in our Facebook group. So without further ado, Chris, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Very glad to be here and glad to be with everybody. With Sister District, the Sister District Project has been doing just an absolutely tremendous job helping out my campaign so far. And it's really been very humbling and very gratifying to get this much support from people, not only in the district who have been helping to knock on doors and make phone calls, but also outside of the district and outside of the state too. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm from Philadelphia originally, so I'm from a northern state, went to school in Boston, went to Emerson College, where I got a degree in broadcast journalism, and came to Roanoke, Virginia here in Southwest about 7 years ago in August of 2010, and was the weekend reporter, was just trying to keep my nose to the grindstone and do my job, reporting on whatever the news of the day was. And then 8 months into my career as a weekend reporter in Roanoke, they made me the evening anchor at age 22. So I anchored the 6 and 11 o'clock news for 7 years, and also was the crime, courts, and investigative reporter for the station. And I had a couple of issue beats that were really important to me that are also important to me now in this campaign, which is mental health and also the opioid heroin crisis that we have here in Southwest Virginia and in Appalachia. So I was motivated to run for office in part because of what happened to me 2 years ago. My girlfriend, Allison Parker, was shot and killed on live television at Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia in 2015. And it was and still remains a very difficult process for me to work through, but I'm still very close to her parents, and we talk every day. As a matter of fact, I talk to my mom and dad and then call her parents. But I knew I needed to leave the station emotionally, but still wanted to do something that I felt was service-based, like I was doing in journalism, giving people a voice, letting their stories be told. And I can't tell you, from not only around the state, but around the country, how many cards and emails and letters I got after Allison and Adam were killed. And I got so much support from Southwest Virginia that I knew I didn't want to move out of the area and run away from what had happened, but I needed to leave the station. And so this seems like a very natural progression to run for public office and to hopefully be their next delegate in Richmond. So the campaign started in mid-February, and things have been going fantastically well so far. I am running pretty much full-time. I saved up enough to be able to do this throughout November. So we have a campaign office, we have a campaign manager, a field director, field organizers making calls, knocking on doors. I'm knocking on doors pretty much every night. So it's actually been a lot of fun. You know, there's some parts of campaigning that can be difficult, but I've been having a lot of fun, and being able to meet so many of the voters here in my district has been wonderful. We have Virginia Tech and Radford University in the district as well. So people know me. I've been in their living rooms for many years on television. So I feel like we have a real opportunity to beat a 3-term incumbent who's running for his 4th term, who is backed by Republican PACs and other Republican delegates, the new Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader, some of his cronies in adjacent Republican districts here in Southwest Virginia are trying to prop him up. But we think like we have a real good thing going here with good old-fashioned hard work and volunteerism. And so that's where the Sister District has already been very, very helpful.
That's great. Yeah. And one of the questions, I think you kind of spoke to this a little bit, but just is like what the energy has been like as you've been out canvassing and phone banking and kicking your campaign off, and how you're being received by voters in the district.
Yeah, doing very well. And I am humbled every single day for many different reasons. One is, I think you could let it get out of your control if you just indulge in what the people who are knocking on doors and making phone calls are telling us, and what I'm seeing when I'm going out in the district, which is that people know me and they really think that this is a good idea, and they feel energized and motivated to do something that they haven't done before, like actually going out and volunteering on their own or making small contributions. And an apartment from a guy who had some Hillary people staying in his apartment last year when they were doing some field work. And he says, when we were knocking on doors last year, there were people who were going to vote but were not enthusiastic. And now he says, in combination with the fact that Hillary didn't win and that it's me and my campaign, I mean, people really are fired up. So it's kind of almost a snowball effect here. It's my energy and enthusiasm and passion for this. It's the general temperament and temperature of the electorate right now. And that means we are cooking with gas. So we have tremendous potential, and I think we just need to capitalize on it as much as we can.
Yeah, and without getting too negative, I mean, you're running against a two-term incumbent, Joseph Yost, for those of you at home. And so as you've been out talking with voters, what would you say is really resonating with them as your message, and how you're really setting yourself apart from him in terms of what you would bring to the office?
Yeah, so he is considered a moderate, and somebody that I actually worked with on some mental health stories. He has tried to work on some mental health legislation in particular while he's been in the General Assembly. So he had been a colleague and a contact in my prior job. So I know him. I think he's a good man. I think he's a good husband, a good father. But what has really resonated with the people in this district is that they don't really see him. They don't really know him. He's from Giles County, a very rural county in the district that voted for Trump 80-20. But they don't think that he's really fighting for them. The Giles County schools continue to see decline in enrollment because there's no economic opportunity for families there. And that means that their share of support from the state for their schools is eroding. So they're having to decide, do we have a nurse in every school, or do we have running school buses? And when I say that I'm someone who is going to take what I did in journalism, giving people a voice, giving the people of the 12th district a voice, and going and fighting like hell for them in Richmond, that really gets them fired up, because they just don't feel like they've been fought for in Richmond. And that's something that has been very engaging so far. People who have been Democratic, who have voted for him, who have tickets split in the past, would say he's not that bad. But for me, we can do a whole lot better than he's not that bad. And he doesn't get to step out from his party and show any real leadership or backbone on the issues that matter. Like I said, he's tried to do some work on mental health, but the GOP here in Virginia unanimously, Yost included, just as recently as this past April, year after year, vote against Medicaid expansion. And that would give 400,000 Virginians access to mental health services, including 4,000 people here in my district, life-saving, potentially, mental health services, substance use disorder treatment for chronic diseases. That's what Medicaid expansion can do. And because Republicans are trying to undermine the success of the Affordable Care Act, they unanimously, Yost included, reject it every single time.
Yeah, and as you're talking about the local issues, local issues affecting the area, and of course you're running for a state office in Virginia. What would you say to a volunteer here in New York who's watching tonight and is really interested about what you're saying, and hearing what you're saying, but is kind of questioning what the number of teachers in Giles County schools has to do with their life here in the 16th district in New York?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. And this was something that I had to explain to my own parents, who live in Philadelphia, and my own family who lives out of state. But we know that because of the bold leadership that President Obama had during his term in office, that we lost 1,000 seats in our state legislatures to Republicans. And we are one state away from total Republican control, one state away from that scenario to being able to amend the U.S. Constitution and ratifying amendments. So the urgency is really clear that we have to start taking back our state legislatures around the country for progressives and for the Democratic Party. And I think there's no better opportunity than Virginia. And people who have a lot of energy and a lot of angst and a lot of fear and frustration because of what's going on in Washington right now with the Trump administration and the Republican agenda, have a real opportunity to tangibly contribute to taking back some of our state legislatures. In 2017, there are 17 districts that Hillary Clinton won last year that have a Republican incumbent, including mine. If we got all 17 of those districts, we would have a Democratic majority in the General Assembly in Richmond. And we know Virginia is a purple state right now, but I actually think it's a blue state. And I think the more we're able to engage with progressives and Democrats in rural districts like mine and talk about our shared values, I think we can actually go from having Virginia be purple to being as blue as New Jersey or New York.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So as you know, kind of putting that all back together, so what are some of the like really big challenges you think you face as a candidate, and what can we do here from New York to help you with them?
Well, they're going to call me a gun grabber and a carpetbagger is pretty much the two lines that they've been using the entire time. I mean, they have attacked me since hour one of when I announced that I was going to get into this campaign. And I think they're doing that because they're scared. And so what do Republicans do when they're scared about losing a seat? They pour money into the district in order to try to drown you out. And they're going to try to buy the seat because it's worked for them each and every cycle. You know, my district voted for Hillary Clinton. It voted for Tim Kaine. It voted for Mark Warner, our two U.S. senators. It votes for Democrats at the top of our ticket statewide for governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. It just has this pesky Republican incumbent that because they are able to buy all of his mail pieces and buy television ads for him, the Democratic opponent never has a chance to be heard. So when we are making these phone calls and knocking on doors and getting help from the Sister District Project, that is crucial. That is vital because that allows us to undercut what we know they're going to do, which is they're going to try to pour money into this race so that they don't lose the seat. You know, it would be a very bad loss for them from a pride standpoint, like some stupid pride standpoint, because they don't want to have a Democrat in Southwest Virginia, in the Blue Ridge Mountains, in Appalachia. They don't want any Democratic districts south and west of Charlottesville, where the University of Virginia is. So this is something that's very personal to a lot of these Republicans in Virginia, and that means they're going to sink money into it, and they already have. I mean, they're giving him more money than they normally do.
Yeah, so speaking of that, I saw an email from your campaign this morning that you got some really good financial reports in for the last reporting period. But your candidate definitely, or your opponent has definitely also been pulling in some major money, and also has money from his past races. So like, how much do you need to raise to be financially competitive with him, and what are some of the big expenses you need to be ready to cover and win?
Yeah, so I'm new to all of this, and I'm learning about campaigning from the inside as I kind of go. And one of the main things that you want to make sure you can do, especially as a challenger to an incumbent, is that you want to have that direct contact and communication with the voter at the same time or before the incumbent. And we generally still do that with pieces in the mail that you get in your mailbox, and also with television and radio ads. And when you're able to raise money now and into the summer, that allows you to start that program at the same time or before the person you're running against. Because what you don't want to give them is, you know, a 2, 3, 4 week window where they can put stuff in people's mailboxes, on the local news, in television commercials, and not allow you to have a chance to present your case for why you should get that contract, why you should get that seat from the people. So we think we're going to need to individually raise $500,000 on our own. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up spending $750,000 to $1 million, $750,000 to $1 million on this race. And you know, the good news is that we've been very successful so far. We just had a reporting period, as you said, for the past 2 months, and raised another $84,000. We now have more than 2,000 individual contributions to this race so far, which is the most of any Democratic House of Delegates candidate so far. We are raising more money than everybody but our minority leader in the House of Delegates. And we are not just doing it by out of district and out of state money either. And the generous support we've gotten from people who are part of Sister District Project has been great. You know, every single time I see that $20.17 donation, I'm like, yes, there's more Sister District Project help, and it's been wonderful. But we looked at local investment. And we ran the numbers, and in the first 3 months of our campaign, we have 300 investors, donors in the 12th district. My opponent has only had 100 in the whole 6 years he's been in the General Assembly. So not only have we had tremendous support from people outside of the district like you all, but we have the local investment too. And that is just something to build on and move forward with for sure. And let me just also say too, so where we are kind of in the money race, we have raised $170,000 on our own so far, with me making phone calls and us being aggressive and reaching out to people and inviting them to invest in the campaign. He has been sitting in his office and basically going to the P.O. box every day, pretending like it's Christmas. You know, every single time he opens up and boom, here's a check from the telecommunications lobby, and here's a check from the Speaker of the House, and here's a check from, you know, a natural gas pipeline pack. So he gets to be able to sit back and relax, and we've been very aggressive. And because of that, we have shrink the gap, where we came into this race down about $70,000, and now we're only down about $25,000 from what we both have in our bank accounts. So we think we're definitely giving him all that he can handle, and they're running scared.
That's great. I want to circle back to this question about donations in a second, but I want to think about the other half of what we can do from here in New York around voter outreach. And so our indivisible groups here have been very active with the recent special elections, with phone banking and postcard writing, and we're starting with texting. And so we're all really eager to get started on that, and wonder what your thoughts are about, you know, what would you like for us to do? Is phone banking helpful? How helpful is it really? What about postcard writing, texting? You know, what can we be doing from here? And what's the timing for some of that? And how does timing kind of play into some of the decisions?
Well, normally I think you wait until after Labor Day to do any of this, right? But I think we have a great opportunity to do it as soon as possible and to just do it consistently. We don't need to go overboard here and bombard people with calls and with knocking on doors. But people, I think, want to be engaged with the political climate right now. They want to be part of the discourse, which means, and we're out making phone calls and knocking on doors already. And we've made 10,000 phone calls so far for our race just on our side, and have knocked on more than 3,500 doors, and I've done close to 1,000 myself, you know. So we are looking to continue to expand that operation. And just to tell you about this district, that I used to anchor the news and was on at 6 o'clock, and my co-anchor was on at 5 o'clock. In between then, you know, in New York and all of the major metro areas around the country, you have now a 5, a 5:30, and a 6 o'clock news, and it's all pretty much the same stuff, just rehashed every half hour. We have a 5 o'clock news, and then we have the Andy Griffith Show, and then we have the 6 o'clock news. This is a district and a region that values family, that values tradition, that values a personal touch. And I don't think that that's a different value from someone in New York. But making a phone call, sending a postcard really matters to people here, because we have habits and routines that I think allow us to be receptive to that. We have more of a relaxed lifestyle. We tune in at 5, make sure we watch Andy Griffith and Opie at 5:30, and then we watch the news at 6 o'clock. So when you send us that postcard, it gets read. It doesn't just get tossed in the trash. And when you make the phone call, people are home to receive those phone calls and are, you know, having that Southern hospitality to where they're actually will talk to you on the phone. So we think that that personal touch will really set us apart, because the Republicans won't do it, but we know what they will do. They will do 40,000 robocalls from the NRA in November, a few days before the election, telling people that I'm going to take everybody's guns. And I think because we're going to have the personal touch from people like you, we'll be able to withstand that onslaught coming in the final few days.
And you're not concerned at all about how donations and phone calls and postcards coming from New York might be perceived? That the fact that we're out of district and we're from an area right outside of New York City, some of us live in New York City, that won't feel too much like an outsider influence in your campaign?
I think, to be quite honest, that we have a universe, right? So again, I'm learning about all of these different terms, and our universe does not comprise of every single voter in the district. And so whatever universe we have for each particular campaign we want to do, whether it's postcards or phone calls or knocking on doors, we're going to tailor it to make sure that the people are going to be able to receive it. In Virginia, less than half of the people who live in this state were born and raised in this state. You know, I'm not from this area. We have Virginia Tech and Radford University, where we have a lot of people who move to the area because of the universities and then never leave and then grow their families, because Blacksburg is rated around the country as one of the best places not only to raise a family, but also to retire. So we have a lot of transplants here. So I think that certainly a message from New York for the people that we would have you be reaching would be received incredibly well, because we have a lot of people who live in my district who aren't from here and who didn't grow up here.
Well, that's definitely comforting to hear, because we're really excited to get started. So just one last closing question, and then I'll open it up. I'm not sure if people have been able to get into the chat or not. Mm-hmm. But just if there are any, just sort of anything else we should know or should, be doing here from New York.
I think, it's just one of the things that I've heard from so many people is that they are getting tired, that they're getting fatigued, that this resistance process we are doing against an aggressive and a discriminatory and a regressive Republican agenda can really wear people out. And, people cried after Trump was elected and stayed in their bedrooms for days. And I get that. I've kind of been on a similar path myself when, you're going through grief, when you're going through emotional tumult. And for me, I just think that it's important to rest, to take care of yourself. There's so much attention on a lot of these congressional races. And now, coming up here very soon, all of the attention is going to go to Virginia. So as it gets difficult, as we continue to get tired fighting back, even sometimes in our own homes and in our own neighborhoods with people who want to advance a Republican agenda that we know doesn't move America forward, it only keeps us moving backward, that there is a purpose to this process, to trust that process, and to know that I'm just extremely thankful and extremely grateful to have any help that anybody would want to lend to my campaign. And that, it makes me want to wake up every single day and work that much harder, that I do take a step back every single day and I'm just like, wow, I can't believe where I am, considering I was doing something completely different a little less than 4 months ago.
Definitely, yeah. There's a lot of work to do, but I think we're in it for the long haul, and are really just looking forward to turning Virginia blue. So that was the end of my questions for tonight. I haven't seen any other questions come in here or through Facebook. So I think we can call it a wrap for the evening. Chris, thank you again so much for taking time out of your evening to talk with us, and we hope to see you soon in person. Maybe we can get you back up to New York at some point, or if not, we're definitely looking forward to coming down and doing some on the ground work when the time is right.
Here, let me do this then. Let me kind of show you what we got. So this is my office, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Let's see. So that's the Blue Ridge Mountains right there. That looks out onto Giles County, which is the Republican stronghold. But that's a pretty great view to look at every single day of the Blue Ridge Mountains. The Appalachian Trail is up there. Some great kayaking and fishing and hiking is up there. So that's my view from the office. And then out here, I think we had our organizers have left for the day, but we have a campaign office, and it's a pretty big one. And, we've had people write why they support me with, different messages on here too. So like when I was saying about people's effort from the sister district being very humbling and being something that really makes me want to focus more on what we're doing, I'm serious about that, that this is pretty amazing what we've been able to build in 3 short months, and what what we know we need to do in the future in order to be successful, which means we need to take all of this great attention and great support and enthusiasm and just put people to work, having good conversations and listening to the voters of my district.
That's great. Thanks so much, Chris, and thanks for giving us a tour of the space. I really do hope we get to see it in person. Sometime soon.
Yeah, we're open not 24 hours, but we're pretty much like an 8.
Pretty close to it.
So yeah, thanks, Brooke, and thanks to everybody in the Sister District Project. Your help has been tremendous so far, and thank you so much, and looking forward to working with you here through November and planting this big, huge blue flag here in Blacksburg in Southwest Virginia. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.